Hey, 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 YouTube. Today it's great to be with you today. It is noon and I want to say today I officially canceled the meetup group for Saturday in Toronto. No longer will we be gathering in person because of the convoy. We send it love. We'll meet online and step into the king and queen of our own selves. And so I hope you enjoy the experience that you have this weekend instead of that. And if you know someone who would have come to Queen's Park, let them know we'll no longer be meeting at 2 p.m. there instead, because we will be doing something different. And instead of gathering in person, we'll do it online. And we'll also connect to the divine within. I hope you're well. I love the smell of song in the afternoon, where we are now officially over in the Eastern Standard Time. I'm gonna have a drink, and then we're gonna get into living in the moment. So let me just grab this down because I feel like it's gonna get hot as we live in this moment. All right, so here we go. Living in the moment. Sharing with yourself is when you quit judging yourself and you just be yourself. What more intimate way can you share with something than to be it? Most of you have all these ideas about what sharing with yourself is. Sharing with yourself simply means you quit judging you. It is that simple. It's not going to feel like this big flowery idea of, oh, wow, I just shared with myself. Wow, that was good. Sharing with oneself is just a way of life. It will feel like no thing. It will just be. Sharing with yourself is when you are 100% content. Sharing with yourself is when you are 100% content and complete without having to have any external validation. You don't have to have anybody else tell you you're great. You just know that you're all right. That only comes from not judging yourself. But if you're still in a place of saying, well, I don't need all their support, I don't need all their validation, I'm really okay, this says you're probably not feeling okay because you're having to make a fuss about saying that you are okay. It's sort of a non-relationship with yourself. Yes. It's called being yourself. How can you be yourself when you're sitting here trying to be it, and it is sitting over there? This is what happens for the most part. So most of you say, okay, myself is over there. Now I'm sitting here and I'm going to have a relationship with myself. In order to have a relationship with yourself, you have to split yourself into two so that you can have a relationship. If you're just being yourself, it's kind of boring. If you're just being yourself, there are no problems, there are no issues, and that's too simple for most of you. You're all having affairs with yourself, but you're separating yourselves to do it. The ultimate state of loving yourself is to just quit being mean with yourselves. Quit saying, I should have done this, I should have done that. If any one of you, in one day's effort of all your shoulding on yourself, if you had a parent that treated you that way, you'd probably hate them very, very much. Most of you are bigger tyrants on yourselves than the tyrants that have been big on this planet ever were. So loving yourself basically just boils down to just being a no thing. Following the logic through. If you're being something, then how are you being yourself? You can't be, because you're being something. When you finally get it, it will be so simple. You'll sit and smack yourself upside the head, feel embarrassed and say, oh, that was so dumb. Oh, I was so dumb. Being yourself is doing absolutely nothing. It is and isn't. So how does one act when one has no relationship with oneself, when one is not being anything, when one is sharing so intimately with themselves? What are the characteristics of this individual? Peace. Some would probably perceive it as quite boring. When you were in that state, most people, if you're looking to get something out of you, if they are looking to get something out of you, like validation, won't like you. They will see you as one of those rude, crude, ignorant, mean, self centered, snotty people because you didn't tell them how great they were. People who are just looking for support will find great solace with you because you're not expecting anything out of them either, because you're not expecting it out of you. Being yourself. How can the rose be anything but the rose? In its natural state, it can't. If you want to be yourself or be the full-fledged entity, you do nothing. It takes no discipline. It takes no disciples. No. It takes no disciplines. It takes no practice. The only practice you have to do is practice at quit practicing so you can get out of your own way. No expectations. None of this is what I was supposed to be. None of this is what I'm supposed to be if I'm being myself and being a God. You all have expectations on how God is supposed to be. So if you're going to be God, then you know how you're supposed to be. You have expectations about what a God is, and that is the problem. But you could set a couple of criteria for being a God right now. You could say a God likes to have fun. Yes, but in their state, they're being a no thing. What would be the funnest type of person for you to be around? Somebody that is very grouchy because their expectations aren't being realized, or somebody that is so much a no thing that wherever their heart wants to go, they just do it, but they had no expectations? All they could ever do was have fun, because the only reason you don't have fun, this is a biggie, is because you have expectations. Expectations are also said to be the leading cause of disappointment. So remember that too. Any moment in your life that you can't say, wow, that moment was fun, is because you had expectations that you didn't live up to. It means you weren't being a God, and that's why you didn't have fun. Gods have no expectations, thus everything they do is fresh, free, and in the moment. And wouldn't you call that fun? I would. Gods don't know how to do anything but have fun. That would be your interpretation of it. If every day of your life is not totally joyous, you had expectations you didn't live up to. It is your own fault that you didn't have fun. If you had no expectations, then every second of every day would be a new experience because you'd have curiosity. You wouldn't know what is going to come in 5 minutes from now, and it wouldn't matter because in 5 minutes from now, you'll get to see it then. You would be more worried about this second and this moment now, and it would keep you right here in this moment now, and always in the present. If you're in the present moment, you can have no issues. If you're in the present moment, you can have no pain because your pain is a lag over the moments before. If you're in the present moment, you can't even have any struggle. If you're in the moment now, you have no binds, no ties, no nothing. So all you could have is the most ultimate unlimited freedom that existed. Now to me that sounds like a whole lot more fun. I would rather be that kind of a God than the kind of God you have I would rather be that kind of a God than the kind of God you all have images about being. If you could do that by being in the moment, every moment, with no preconceived or past conceived ideas, what would you call it? Spontaneous. Spontaneous, but what would it be? Joy, because you couldn't have anything else, because you weren't expecting something different. You'd have no pain, no nothing. Where did we pick up our expectations? Because if you were having that much fun, then you start getting curious about 5 minutes down the road and wonder, maybe I'd have even more fun, and you move out of the present moment. Anytime you move out of the present moment, you're in trouble. So any time in your day that your life is not filled with joy, fun, freedom, unlimitedness, you're not living in the moment by moment. This is the hardest lesson. You're all very tied to your struggle so that you know that you did something. Nobody likes to be a nothing. But give it a try. You'll never go back. I guarantee it. If you're living in the moment and the now, there is also no intent. Intention is what you put out of the moment. Intention was trying to take the joy you were feeling and organize it. Organization of yourself will take you out of joy every time. Every time. That means that what you're doing is trying to take yourself, organize it, and compartmentalize it so that you can make sure there is always enough joy to go around. That's called lack. If you live in the moment, there isn't anything else. It is an attitude. Your intentions are expectations. Expectations takes you out of the moment, puts you into the future, which ties you into the past, which doesn't let you have any fun in the now. If your lives are miserable, it's your own fault. Nobody likes to hear that. Nobody likes to hear that one. Right now, in this moment, all you do is focus in this exact moment, right now. Everything else is void. And you'll have a transition in your consciousness. Then we'll have something to talk about big time. Because when you can do it and you can start doing that consecutively, moment by moment, it changes you faster than anything. It releases your issues and puts your lives back into joy. Even right now in this moment, put it into a place of there is just this moment in a feeling sense. That will be the most valuable tool you'll ever learn. Everything else that you'll go through is to teach you how to do that one thing. Just take the moment, and you take the moment and stretch it. It is just now, and in that moment, the issues leave. There is a joy and an excitement underneath it. There is a difference between excitement and expectations. The joy levels rise, and life becomes an excitement. But all you have to do is learn to take that excitement moment by moment. Just let yourself feel this moment now. Nothing else exists at all. Let yourself stretch it and let go of it, and then do the next. Right now, most of you use intents as a goal. What you want to do, and the fastest way to manifest anything, is that you put your intent into the future, drop it off, and ignore it. Then every moment will be taking you to what you set up. Then being yourself means that is the only thing you can be. When one has obligations and there is a certain time frame that we need to be there and a certain number of things that we need to do during those hours, if we're doing a moment by moment, you'll do it easier and better than you ever did it before. And you'll fulfill your obligations better than you could ever do it otherwise, because what will happen is you will stay in an almost detached state from it. Not a spaced out detached, but if you're living in the moment, then what happens is you can never be shifted into a place of having misery at your job. Then that means each moment is this moment. You're not living off past issues with your employer, and you're not living off past issues with anything else. In the moment, there is joy. What happens in these moments build on themselves until the whole thing is joy. That is the vision of a God. In that moment, you're living in your moment. Then you can see the people around you playing dumb, not as a judgment of mentality, but when you're in the moment, you can see them as a God playing a ridiculous game, just like you are. Then you will say, wow, this is really funny. And it will give you some of the biggest thrills and joy with life you'll ever find. And joy with life you'd ever find. When you can get into that state, you'll want to be around people more than you ever did before. You can have so much joy at seeing the God in them while they are pretending to be ignorant of the fact that they're God. You can see it all the time, and you know darn good and well, so can they. It creates a very grand form of excitement or thrill with life, watching the mechanics of the way all of your minds put things together. If you can live in the moment, it does not mean that you're going to be irresponsible. Living in the moment is an attitude shift. It means that at 7 o'clock, if you need to be at work, great. You don't take the preconceived expectations that you're going to be tired at 7 o'clock. You don't take the preconceived ideas of, oh wow, what a drag today. I don't want to go to work. You don't take the preconceived ideas of, my boss is a lousy so-and-so and I don't want to go to work. You don't take the preconceived idea of, I don't get paid enough. You don't take any of those with you. And then what you do is live in the moment. It is an attitude. It is an attitude shift in the beginning that every moment is a thrill because there is nothing from the past and nothing being expected of the future. It is just now. This is the only moment you've got left to live right now. Every moment is your last moment. If I took your advice totally and lived the moment, I would not make the 7 o'clock date at work. I would say that you would, and you'd make it easier. Because if you're in a job with a 7 o'clock date at work, some part of your entity wants to be there, or you wouldn't be there for whatever reason. So, what would happen is if you could live in the moment with no preconceived expectations at all, and then part of your identity decided it didn't like it, it might give you a job making 50 or 60 bucks at work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It would shift it to whatever it needed to maintain you into a place of keeping the focus on the moment. It really would. Some of you work and some of you don't. Let's say tomorrow morning, you all have to get up and go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. What are your reactions? I want you to be honest with them. I don't want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have to be there by 6, so you have to get up at 4. No way am I going to get up at 4. But why? Because I enjoy sleeping in. I want you all to be serious with this, and let's just show you how much preconceived, compressed data you all have, okay? Why do you want to sleep? Why would you not want to get up? I like to wake up naturally, and that usually doesn't happen at 4:30 in the morning. We can even let you sleep till 6 and not have to go to work until 7. How's that? I used to get up at 6 all the time and I loved it, but something shifted and I don't like that anymore. Okay, you don't have to get up until 8 o'clock to go to work at 9. That's okay. But how do you feel about being at work at 9 o'clock? I don't want to go to work. Why not? Because it's not a joy to me anymore. Why isn't it? I don't know. It's a drag. I have to force myself to get there. Okay, but see, this is something every one of you are facing in some avenue of your life, so I'm going to push you. If you want me to back off, just say back off, okay? So, why is it a drag? See, your very statement telling me it's going to be a drag means that you've already preconceived it to be one. That means that you know that you're going to go to work without any joy. Why would any God put themselves through that? I've been trying to figure that out. Each of you have preconceived ideas about what the job is going to entail. You don't want to go to work. It's a drag. Okay, let me tell you a scenario that I was planning for your day at work tomorrow that you're going to miss, okay? Come 4 o'clock, we were going to tickle you and wake you up with just a really fun, euphoric feeling. We're going to let you see the most beautiful sunrise you've ever seen. It would just melt you down to your bones, but you're going to sleep through it. We were also going to get you to work in a brand new car that was in your driveway in the morning. Go for it. No, you slept through it. I would have been satisfied with the sunrise. Okay, but you missed the car too. You slept through it. Then I thought I would just kind of pop in and see you, literally. Then about 11:35, you were going to drop a check. We were going to drop a check on you for $10.5 million. But tomorrow is such a drag that you're not going to go to work, so you're going to miss it all. This is what you've done with all your lives. This is what you've all done with your lives. You have preconceived, compressed data, and so there are no possibilities. You all want to know what stops you from having what you want. You all ask, why don't I win a new car? Why don't I win the lotteries or whatever it is? Why don't I do this? Why don't I do that? What part of me is keeping me from it? It is you, consciously. You've already preconceived how tomorrow is going to be. Since you have already preconceived it, how can anything change and be different? It can't, because emotionally, you're living in the past. Drop the past, totally drop it. Tomorrow morning, let yourself feel it. Tomorrow, you're going to get up 4:40, 4:30 or 5. No stress on the body, and the sunrise is going to be gorgeous, brilliant, beautiful. From there, you're going to go to a new job, one that you really want to do. Now, you're willing to get up at 4:30 in the morning? Yes, I would be. Why the difference? As I said, all of you have avenues in your lives that are the same way, whether they are jobs, relationships, or something else. Why can't tomorrow be the way? Why can't tomorrow be that way at the old job? For one moment, split time, drop the past, drop the expectations, and live in that moment. And then that expectation of going to something new and fun can be every single moment of your life. That is loving life. Loving life is when you have no expectation about what it is going to bring you, so you can fully enjoy it. You all have to love yourselves into existence. That is putting yourself into a place that you have no expectations over what life is going to bring you. If you have no expectations over what tomorrow is going to bring, that is called being a god. See, you all know how to organize everything really well. See, you all know how to organize everything real well. Most of you have your next 20, 30 years and your funeral plans all arranged. Tomorrow is Tuesday. What are you doing tomorrow? Tomorrow is Thursday. Well, I'm going to get up and go to work. I have to work from 9 to probably about 6 or 7. Wednesday, what are you doing? Going to work. Thursday, going to work. Friday. Friday, I have a different kind of work that I do. Saturday, play, hopefully. You have every day of your life designed before you get there, and you've already said what a drag it is. I have learned that it drives me crazy if it's not like that. Most of your brains will not let you just have a disorganized life because you have to worry. Yeah, to be spontaneous is hard. The brain likes security, and it finds security in knowing where everything is going to fit together. Security is also expectation, which means you will never love life as long as you have expectations. As long as you're worried about the security of life, that is an expectation. Most of you have this big issue right here, this big gray area, and are wondering, but what about my obligations and responsibility? Your entities built the planet, created roses, built an atmosphere, it molecularly designed bodies and created species of animals. Playfully, to one of the group, and your entity created the fly. That was supposed to be a joke in brackets, okay. It created sunrises and sunsets. It did all these things, but it is not going to know how to take care of you? That is what you're all saying. It sounds pretty ludicrous when you put it that way, but it doesn't feel like it has been. There's a gap. There is a bridge right here called surrender. This is called being yourself that all of you have to bridge. You're all so scared of letting go of the security and these expectations that you'll never be yourself. You'll never be your entity. Your entity can create universes. It can create stars. It can create suns. It can create them and destroy them. It can create a race of humanoid species, but it won't know how to put food on your table even though it created every food on the planet. You all know how to organize, put things in order, but you haven't learned how to be the source yet. 3 things you have yet to become at the source. 3 things you have yet to become at the same time: source, self, and creator. You all have the creator part down real well. Self and source have yet to be developed. The source lives in the moment. Since now you have a personality to put on it, it is the moment. It can't organize. You have to learn to be so spontaneous as to not organize your future. That is the big gap that keeps you from your true freedom. That is called surrender. Until you cross the gap, your worries will run you wherever they want you to go. You appear to have nothing to say about it until you can get to the point of the moment, these moments, the moment now, the present moment. When you get to that point, you will have no issues because those issues are part of the creator. The creator has to decide how to put all those silly little molecules together. That's what a creator does. A source just says, hey, I love and I love life. That's all it does. You are all trying to learn to be all 3. You're trying to learn to get to a point of just loving life enough, which means no expectations, that the part that made this whole entire universe will take care of you. It is just a bridge of attitude. It doesn't mean you're going to go dump your jobs or you're going to dump this or you're going to dump that. If they are in your way, they'll get taken away from you. What it means is that the attitude inside is going to shift and a bridge is going to be made, and then you become the living entity in the moment. You can never manifest anything until you learn to release in the moment. You have to learn how to do it. In that moment, you completely release the past and the future. That moment is life itself, and then you take the creator part of you and put that moment into it and manifest it now. Loving yourself into existence entails living in the moment. That's it. The only place you're going to find love is in the moment. I felt it. I just can't hold on to it. You're not supposed to. That's the whole point. You're also used to, oh, I got it. Oh, don't let go. You build billions and billions of moments. Don't hang on to it. Never, never hang on to it. If you are back to square one, which is fine. That's a good place to start. But don't hang on to your moments. This keeps you in the past. It was a moment. It was great. Let's do the next one, and the next one, and the next one. The only discipline a developing God really needs is to learn how to let go of everything for the moment. It is an attitude, it's a shift. And in that moment, you connect with your entity. And in the moment, you can say, hey, entity, my bills aren't getting paid. In fact, you won't need to tell it. It just knows it. And it might just happen to drop a check in your mailbox. And it might just happen to drop a check in your mail for you. It will take care of you. But if you're running around all over the place, it will never catch up with you. It will never, ever catch up with you to give you what you want. What does living in the moment have to do with the aging process? You'll find that if you take all the people 100 years or older from your planet and interview every one of them, they all have a couple things in common. One, it doesn't matter what they ate. It doesn't matter whether they exercised or not. It has nothing to do with it. Some of your ancient ones, 120 years old, smoked from the time they were 12 years old and they are just fine. Some of them did every terrible thing. They drank every day of their lives. They weren't on the good people's good diet list. They didn't do any of it. The one thing that everyone has in common that lives to 100 years plus is they lived in the moment and they didn't worry about the future. They didn't take life seriously. The ones that are 110, 120 and over didn't believe everything anybody told them about themselves. They didn't buy the images. They lived their own truth. You'll find in common with everyone who lives to a nice, ripe old age that they don't go around judging life a lot or judging other people. They just don't take it too seriously. They just realize that life is for living, not for dying over and not for being stressed over. You will find that in common with every one of them. In order to change the body, to rejuvenate it, all you have to do is let life in. All you have to do is let life in it, which means you get rid of the expectations. It is that simple. I love you all. I'm going to vacate. Have fun. Be at peace. Be out of expectation. So I retract my have fun and be at peace because that would give you expectation. So be a no thing. Be yourselves. Be no thing and everything. I love you. Anyway, be at peace. Good night. So that was the chapter on living in the moment. And truly, the moment is magical. And when we ride the moment without expectations of what that moment is going to bring us to, then we actually open ourselves to the possibilities that are available to us that we wouldn't have had the consciousness to create because of the lowered consciousness we have to what our highest self has the capacity to create within the mind's eye of the intuition, the inner guide your soul hired ahead of time to make sure that while you were here, you had the nudges to lead you in the right direction for the moment that you are in. So I hope that you will live in this moment truly, fully. And if you're enjoying this message, give it a like. I appreciate that very much. And I want not to read a super long chapter. So will not. And instead, I will simply say, as I did at the very beginning, on Saturday, the Kings and Queens Assembly in Queen's Park at 2 p.m. is canceled with the convoy that is taking place on Saturday and the weekend and however long it's going to last. I feel like getting on the highway for any reason over the weekend is not necessarily going to be advantageous. And furthermore, I do believe that we may need to send a lot of prayers and good juju the way of all who are doing their best to advocate and make a difference with the convoy that is taking place, given that if there is a logjam of vehicles, and just make sure if you are going to be part of it, you bring extra clothes. And If you do have some some jugs that you can bring some extra gas in your car to or your vehicle in order to make sure that if things do go bad, um, I'm going to just pray for everybody that's involved and just hope that it goes well. And are you coy? I don't know specifically what your question is, Carl. I saw your message yesterday that I am interesting to you, so thank you. And I hope that if you didn't have a chance to tune in until now, that you go back and you listen to the chapter on living in the moment, because truly this moment is where all of our power is. And it is when we actually call ourselves back into alignment of all aspects of ourselves, which is body, mind, spirit, and will. So when we actually bring the will into things, which is the divine feminine principle that combines with awareness to then meet in the heart and manifest in the 3D, that is when we bring our power back into this moment. And we have the power that other moments would steal from us if we plugged our power into those moments or people or ideas that previously we've given our power to, which in the sacred sojourn of the soul, that whole process in the dark night of the ego, when the ego edging God out is really struggling to hold on to its own self-image, which is ultimately what the transformation is about. In that moment, we have to really remember the need to call ourselves back into the present moment and to understand that previously every idea that we had, which previous chapters in Joyriding the Universe have been around gestalts, and gestalts are basically layered ideas and patterns. So belief systems, or the BS that ultimately is layered in multiple ideas and options. And that's kind of like the onion that we have to cut through in order to get back to the centered moment without expectation. And in the dark night of the ego, what we'll find is that we've plugged our BS or our belief systems into BS that wasn't ours in the first place. And so all of that which is outside of the moment of now is ultimately where our power is going, because we're feeding it instead of ourselves in this moment. And by ourselves, I will spell it a little differently to say CELL-F for whether we're filling ourselves with fear or faith. So I hope that that offers some assistance for calling yourself back to the present moment. I appreciate you for tuning in today. I am heavily shadow banned, so a lot of people don't necessarily get to see these messages. So if you give it a like, it helps me in the algorithms. If you share it with someone that would benefit from receiving a message such as this, I have been going back and editing the chapters after the readings in order to make it so it's just the chapter reading and you're able to experience this without having to sit there. So if you want to be doing something, exercise or whatever it is that brings you alive in the moment that feels fun, that will call you back present. And then you can fuel yourself with goodness too. And remember too that ultimately everything that you do is either adding to you or not subtracting from you. So we've got energy, life givers and life drainers in our lives. And our choices ultimately will uplift or diminish and deplete. And so really being mindful of the choice that we're making in the moment. And then whenever we catch ourselves, then we can prevent ourselves from wrecking ourselves by calling our power back where we are. So you're in charge of your own ship. Well, that is wonderful. And when we understand that it's all ships, there's partnerships, there's relationships, there's employment. So there's the ships and the ments, which is the mental and the ships. And this reality is full of pirates, which is ultimately the same ship with a box of flags. They just change which one they're flying when they're approaching another. So make sure when you are interacting with others and also yourself that You are flying a flag that really reflects who you came here to be. So, really bringing that intentionality into what you're creating. So, I hope that that adds more value to you. I'm going to say adieu for today and hope that you are having a phenomenal week. And we'll look forward to coming together with you again very soon. Toodaloo. Ciao for now.